Hello and welcome back to another episode of Conservative Arkansas Media. I am your host, Paul Harrell. Thank you so much for being with us. So we're really at the beginning of the summer, and I don't know if you guys remember this, but in the summer, if you're in high school, if you're finishing your junior year, going into your senior year, a lot of kids go to basically a civics camp called Boys State. Last year, I heard reports that it had gone woke. Last year, I heard reports of indoctrinating kids, mainly because I had a family member that went there, and just the horror stories that he came back with, talking about all of this indoctrination, being forced to watch a slideshow, saying that, Jesus was really black, and, how white guilt should be more accepted. Anyway, it was just really odd stuff. And as a matter of fact, I even called, some people that I know, state reps, state senators, letting them know, hey, what's going on with Boys State? Well, apparently from then to now, very little has changed. And now there's video evidence of this basically woke ideology indoctrinating kids at a civics camp that's just supposed to learn how to pass a bill and, the three branches of government, essentially. But that is not the case at all, and we're going to bring that to you today here on this episode of Conservative Arkansas Media. The first thing that we're going to do is we're going to go over to who first made me aware of this story from this summer, back on the 2nd of June. Nicholas Horton with Opportunity Arkansas writes that listen to this, indoctrinating without indoctrinating, VP Parker's inappropriate, divisive Boys State performance. Now, this is on video, and again, we're going to cover that video here in just a moment. But yeah, this was something that I thought was, even if you read this story, it's pretty incredible. It really is maddening when you watch this video. So here is Nicholas Horton. He writes, I'm going to write about something I really don't want to. It's somewhat outside of the topics we typically cover here at Opportunity Arkansas, and that is true. But sometimes when you see something that's wrong, you just have to speak up. And what I've seen out of Boys State in the last 24 hours has left me stunned and almost speechless, especially as an Arkansas parent. We wrote earlier this week about the published list of speakers from Arkansas Boys State. It included two far-left speakers, including VP Parker, who is the director of, get ready, diversity, equity, and inclusion at Arkansas Children's Hospital. When I wrote that story, there was definitely a part of me that thought this looks bad and it sounds inappropriate, but surely it can't be as bad as it looks on paper. Maybe Parker will tone down his divisiveness for the young audience. But having watched the video, I can say it was worse than I expected. Now, before you keep reading, I just want to assure you that there is no indoctrination happening in Arkansas. None, not a zilch, he writes. Indoctrination has been so far removed from our state that the word has even been taken out of local dictionaries. Our state's educational institutions only talk about good things, no bad things. Oh, man, I'm sorry. I can appreciate the sarcasm. That's all. I can appreciate the sarcasm for sure. So he goes on. So remember, absolutely no indoctrination occurred whatsoever at Boys State. None at all. It's not even up for discussion, Nick Horton writes. There was none because a few Republicans also spoke. And so therefore, nothing bad at all could have been said. I have been promised. So please keep that in mind, he writes. There was no indoctrination at Boys State this week. None. Nothing divisive, nothing any parent would not want their kids to be subjected to without their knowledge, not even possible. Here's the thing about this video we're about to watch. By the way, if you got a son that went to Boys State, you need to, and you don't know about this, you need to ask him about this, because I'm telling you, they were totally indoctrinated. There's psychological operation going on from VP Parker, this diversity, equity, inclusion director from Arkansas Children's Hospital. If you have a niece, a nephew, if you have a nephew, or if you have a grandson, or just any family member that you know that went to Boys State, you need to reach out to their parents and let them know, share this article with them, or share this YouTube video with them that we're about to show you. Because it is absolutely insane. The mental gymnastics he's trying to engage in to get them to essentially not be Christians. And I'm saying that because that is the goal. The goal here is the goal from this video, the goal from this indoctrination is essentially to get kids to doubt their faith in God and the authority of the Bible. And if you don't believe me, just wait, because it'll be evident to you that that's what this is. This, in the name of this fake decency, this fake morality, don't be judgmental, which essentially means anything goes. There's no difference in a hug or a rape, because, what's the difference in that, right? Who am I to judge? No, we can judge and we can say that things are bad and that things are good. We can do that, and we can actually put that into laws. We do it all the time. Arkansas legislature's done a really good job of that this past session, and we'll highlight that in a minute because we have this other story coming up here. We'll talk about this. KRK wrote, Arkansas ranked dead last. Just a real quick teaser for what's coming up. Arkansas ranked dead last for LGBTQ plus equality in a recent study. We'll have that study for you here in just a minute. Anyway, back to this story by Nick Horton over at Opportunity, Arkansas. Let me see if I can't. Yeah, let's see. That may be in the way, but I'll do my best here. So he writes, so nothing any parent, nothing divisive, nothing that any parent would not want their kids to be subjected to without their knowledge. It's not even possible, he writes. So what did happen at Boys State this week? Well, on Wednesday, attendees, high school kids, were subjected to a session called Inclusive Leadership 101, led by Mr. Parker. You can watch watch it in its entirety here. He's got a link there, starting at the 6-minute mark. While I want to remind you that there was absolutely no indoctrination that occurred, there were some notable things that stood out. And some things that I, as an Arkansas parent, in all seriousness, find highly concerning. Parker slyly uses psychological gimmicks and sleight of hand to manipulate students' thinking. At one point early on in his remarks, Parker quickly shows a sentence on a screen for about 9 seconds, and then he asks the selected participants to count the F's. Count the F's, kids, in the slide that he had shown them. Then he goes on a tirade about how drawing some strange moral equivalence between counting the F's and serious matters like religion and interracial marriage. According to Parker's optical illusion exercise, if kids can't count the F's, after only viewing the slide, by the way, for 9 seconds, how can they possibly... Good news is I got a lot more than 9 seconds to read my Bible every morning. According to Parker's optical illusion exercise, if kids can't count the F's, how can they possibly make judgments about things like interracial dating, religion, and same-sex love? That's right. That is the Arkansas Children's Hospital's Director of Diversity Inclusion coming after your kids. Why are they coming after our kids? I've got to write this down or I'll forget later. Hang on one second. Why are they coming after kids? All right. Why are they coming after kids? I'm going to address that later. It'll tie into the second article that we just teased. It's a demographic problem. That's why. But we'll get into that here in just a minute. So according to Parker's optical illusion exercise, if kids can't count the F's, then they can't make judgments about anything in life, right? After all, as Parker declares, you can't count the F's. Let's take a look at this video right now. And anyway, this was Boys State. Indoctrination coming for our kids. Listen to this.
In this sentence that starts with the word finished and ends with the word years, how many F's do you see in this sentence? No, I didn't say yell out anything, remember? I said keep it to yourself. All right, turn around. All right, stay right here. I'm going to yell out a number. If that number represents the number of F's that you count, you're going to step forward. Everybody ready? All right, good. If you counted 3 F's, please step forward. You counted 3 F's, please step forward. Awesome. Step back. You counted 4 F's and only 4 F's. Please step forward. Awesome. Thank you. Step back. You counted 5 F's and only 5 F's. Please step forward. Thank you. Please step back. You counted 6 F's and only 6 F's. Please step forward. Thank you. You counted 7 or more F's. Please step forward. All right, okay, thank you. Remain standing right there, please. Whoop. Your perception builds your perspective. Whoop.
All right, 1 second. I have to interject here just for a moment. So the one thing that I didn't set up, it's set up in the article later, but he got the kids to adopt this gimmick where, I don't know if you guys remember the song, let's see, Whoop, Whoop, There It Is. I'm taking it back to the old school because I'm an old fool who's so cool. I mean, I'd never heard of it. I think, actually, yeah, it was in the Mighty Ducks 2 soundtrack. I'm pretty sure, or yeah, Mighty Ducks 2. I'm pretty sure that's where that's the only reason I know it. It's because I had the Mighty Ducks 2 soundtrack. That's right. Movie that was about, hockey. Anyway, whoop, there it is. That's this whole song where whoop, there it is. Whoop, there it is. So he's got these kids psychologically keyed in to where he can essentially just get amens. Anytime he says whoop, they're going to say, there it is. You know, there are some people that think the left has created for themselves a new religion. Huh. Let's keep listening to this.
Your perspective builds your beliefs. Whoop. Your beliefs then builds your morals, your values, how you interact with other people. Whoop. And what I shared with you before we started this was that if the stuff at the bottom is shaky, come on now. If the stuff at the bottom is shaky, then it might mean, somebody said it might fall. It might mean that the stuff that you built that on, the stuff that's a level above, might actually be a little shaky. But here's what you'll never hear VP tell you. You won't hear VP tell you that you're wrong or that your beliefs are wrong. Because what I'm telling you is, when you come to Boyd State and you talk about leadership, I want you to be thinking about, how can I start to change my own awareness? How can I be more self-critical? How can
Hang on now. Just for a point of clarity here, then that is telling somebody that you're wrong, by the way. And he says, I'll never tell you that you're wrong, but what I am telling you that if you have the belief that you are right, you are wrong, because you need to have more self-humility. You need to have more self-reflection. Now, hang on a second. He is imposing a value system on those kids while claiming he is not. He is imposing a value system on them while claiming he is not. Newsflash, Arkansas, neutrality is a myth. He is proclaiming, he is teaching these kids that you can be neutral. And the fact of the matter is, you can't be neutral. You all stand for something. We all stand for something. We all worship something. It's just a fact. It's a fact of humanity. And we have bought in as conservatives. We have bought into the myth of neutrality. We've also bought the lie that the other side believes in it as well and will be just as tolerant of us as we will be of them. But we are seeing that they don't play by those rules at all, especially when they have power. And so this is unbelievable that this is allowed to go on. This is now the second year I've heard reports of this, and there's got to be serious consequences. There's got to be serious action to stop this kind of nonsense from happening. If we're not going to indoctrinate our kids with this woke, CRT nonsense in our schools, as Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders has admirably implemented, and I know the left's throwing a fit trying to throw these lawsuits at it, then we also don't need to do it at programs like Boyd State. Do you agree? I mean, that would be the consistent policy to have. Unbelievable. This is, let's finish up the video and then I'll say a little bit more.
I start to be thinking about why and how I got to the belief that I'm at when I can't count F's.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, here's where it really is. I'm going to back it up a little bit.
How can I be more self-critical? How can I start to be thinking about why and how I got to the belief that I'm at when I can't count F's. Woo! If I
Now, that is a false equivalency if I've ever heard one. You looked at a slide for 9 seconds. I mean, look, VP Parker, I'm sorry, I don't think this VP Parker guy is a dumb man. I don't think he's a dumb man. So he knows exactly what he's doing here, in my opinion. I mean, he knows that it's not a question. This man, VP Parker, right there, he knows that it's not a question of whether or not to indoctrinate. He knows that the question is, what are you going to indoctrinate? And that's exactly what he's doing to these kids at Boys State. I mean, as a parent, it is, and I'm sure many of you out there listening are parents, grandparents, or uncles, or aunts. And you've got nephews, grandsons, sons who went to this. And this is what they were subjected to all week. This is the kind of nonsense that they were subjected to all week. Diversity, equity, inclusion. How in the world you looked at a slide for 9 seconds and you couldn't count the F's in the paragraph or the sentence, and he's going to use that to mean, well, I mean, if you couldn't count the F's, how in the world do you have a moral foundation? How in the world do you even know if you believe in God, or how do you know if the Bible is true if you can't count the F's based on looking at a slide for a couple of seconds? What a false equivalency. There's no way he actually believes that, by the way. There is no way VP Parker from Arkansas Children's Hospital, the director of diversity, equity, inclusion, there's no way he actually believes that. That is ridiculous. That is nonsense. That is this is a psychological operation against the youth of Arkansas, trying to pump out more and more liberalism, more and more garbage. Finish it up here.
can't count F's, how in the world can I believe that interracial dating is wrong? Whoop! If I can't count F's, how in the world do I think that if you don't have my religion, you going to hell? Whoop! If you can't count F's, how in the world can you think that somebody who loves somebody of the same gender is wrong? Whoop! You can't count F's.
You can't count F's, and so therefore you don't need to share your faith. Just keep it to yourself, and never tell anybody about it. You can't count F's, so don't share the gospel with somebody. You can't count. I said at the beginning of this video that this was really an attack on Christianity, and we don't want people to share it. We don't want people to proselytize. Now, it's perfectly fine to proselytize diversity, equity, inclusion, because these are things that we are now holding above whatever the Scripture says or whatever you were raised in church to believe. These are things that are now held above. These are the good things. The idea that somebody sins and falls short of the glory of God and is going to stand and be held accountable by a perfect and holy God when they die, we don't want to tell them those things, because that might make them understand their need for Christ to forgive them of their sins. See, we're in a time now where nobody wants to be told they're wrong about anything. It's not the loving thing to do. Never mind that there is no real harm done. The left wants to say speech is violence, and that's why a lot of these people out there who are entertaining this idea, who claim to be Christians, really don't know they're playing with fire. But the left wants to say speech is violence, but there's actually nothing violent about telling somebody the good news of the gospel or the fact that they need Christ. As a matter of fact, it's a loving act to do. And if it feels judgmental, just know that it's a shadow of judgment, because it's not the actual judgment of God. That is what we all want to be saved from through Jesus Christ and his death, burial, and resurrection. Anyway, that's the stuff that's going on at Boys State. Here's the rest of this article up at opportunityarkansas.org. Again, Nick Horton. after that, so we just watched the video. So Nick Horton writes, "This is fascinating given that the left has spent much of the last century screaming at conservatives about the separation of church and state and the importance of keeping indoctrination out of schools. I am now learning that indoctrination is okay so long as it's sowing division and liberal thought, although, as I've been told, there is no indoctrination occurring in this performance." As you can hear in the full video, Parker also instructed the audience to respond, "There it is," every time he says "whoop," in an apparent effort to generate psychological agreement akin to a pastor asking for amens from his congregants. Again, I'm really glad that he went there. This was a display of religion. This was a display of, trying to get people to convert. This was essentially proselytizing for the left in their new woke sex religion, which is what they've created for themselves, as far as I can tell. Back to this, we have Parker Scherch is outraged about alleged price disparity of Christmas cards, allegedly based on race. And then he writes, "We can all believe Parker actually had this experience," while also pointing out that, well, there's a lot of factors that affect the price of different greeting cards. For example, the size, the brand of the greeting card, the number of colors of ink used, the type of envelope, the demand for said card versus other cards, the amount of royalties owed to the artist who designed the card, the type of paper used, the type of ink used, and perhaps dozens of other factors, none of which involve the race of the people illustrated on the cards. Parker did not mention any of these that actually would have been helpful economic lessons benefiting for these impressionable kids. Instead, he gave kids the impression that the only factor affecting the price of the Christmas cards was the color of the skin of the people on the cards. Not only is this almost certainly untrue, but it's a way to drive a wedge in between the kids in the room rather than an effort to build unity. Then he singled out a white student for how different they are, and these are all broken up on the Opportunity Arkansas YouTube channel, by the way. And then he justifies the use of the N-word. Anyway, I mean, this goes on and on and on. Nick Horton writes, "Arkansas students deserve better." Again, I'm sure Mr. Parker is a fine person, but it remains unclear to me what value diversity, equity, and inclusion training is bringing to the patrons of Arkansas Children's Hospital. After watching the videos, it's also unclear what value his remarks brought to the young men at Boys State. Also, can we even call it Boys State anymore? Isn't that gendered language offensive? Perhaps the leaders of Boys State can discuss that at their next leadership meeting. Matters of race, religion, and sexuality are important subjects that should be seriously discussed, but not from an ideological viewpoint that seeks to create more division around these sensitive subjects. People are individuals, not monoliths. Putting people into certain categories or classes is the literal opposite of tolerance. These subjects should be handled within homes and families, not crammed into impressionable minds of Arkansas youth through a civics program like Boys State, especially not without having any counter views presented. I don't dismiss Parker's personal experiences or any discrimination he may have faced in his life. I also don't seek to silence him or suggest that he's not entitled to his own opinions, but I do find his comments to be highly provocative, likely exaggerated, and inappropriate for this audience. And as an Arkansas parent, I can assure you that had my son been in attendance, there would be phones ringing off the hook. Again, indoctrination comes to Arkansas Boys State, and it surely does. What do you think? Sound off in the comments of this video. What do you think about all of these happenings? So we have this story as well that I wanted to cover that is directly related to this in a lot of issues, because I'm going to go back to this question, why are they coming after our kids? Before we do that, let's read this. KARK. So this is KARK, Arkansas's NBC News affiliate. Alex Kindlin, Little Rock, Arkansas. A study ranks Arkansas dead last among states for LGBTQ equality in governmental policies and economic opportunity. Okay. This is the link. This is what this story is based on. So the KARK story is based on this website, Out Leadership. And here is the map. As you can see, number one for LGBTQ policies in government, New York. Arkansas is dead last on this list. And now you may see why this E.P. Parker guy is trying to get new converts at Boise State. It's because we want to make Arkansas look like New York. And in order to do that, you've got to take people who were born from women, like we all were, and make them into what the left wants them to be, which is people who are unsure of who they are, unsure of how they were raised, and to change into a leftist. That's really, truly the goal. Now, if we go back here, I just want to highlight some more things because there's a ton of stuff in this report that is gaslighting to the max. In 2022, South Carolina was at the bottom of the list. For 2023, it was ranked one above Arkansas. Out Leadership founder and CEO Todd Sears said a low ranking could impact how businesses view Arkansas. Okay, so this, once again, this is based on something called diversity, equity, inclusion, which we've been talking a lot about today, and environmental social governance. So they are now trying to say that these laws that Arkansas has passed, limiting kids from going to drag shows, banning transgender surgeries, banning puberty-blocking hormones, these type of things, they're now saying that that's hurting our business climate. Now, even if that were true, that doesn't somehow give us the excuse of doing the wrong thing and allowing our children to essentially be sacrificed to whatever this new immoral sex religion is, okay? That doesn't give us an excuse. But on its face, in light of what we are seeing with Target, Bud Light, Major League Baseball put up the Pride logo and then removed it after a couple of days. Okay, Bud Light sales have plummeted. Target's lost $9 billion, probably going to lose more because of their tuck-friendly swimsuits. And I could tell you what tuck-friendly is, but I think it might make you blush. So you should kind of read between the lines there and understand what that is. So anyway, just in terms of who actually agrees with the new sex religion that's been created and who doesn't agree with it, I really don't think you can make this economic argument, but they're going to because these corporations are actually, and it really is about the corporations. So the corporations get more funding if they adopt these policies that none of us agree with, or the vast majority of us disagree with, right? There is a huge disconnect here, and it's intentional, and it really is corporate fascism, if you really want to break it down. That's actually what it is. So back to this article, a greater number of multinational companies continue to shift away from U.S.-based operations. The business impact of this year's index points to a harmful effect for the nation's economy and job market. Major corporate employers want to locate to places where they can recruit the best talent without having to worry about state and local laws hindering their overall business success. Well, business success, that's a relative term. If you want your business to be successful, and it depends on, BlackRock and Vanguard, giving you access to all of this capital, if you will make sure to put environmental social governance and diversity, equity, inclusion everywhere, even though your customers disagree with it. But see, now the customers are fighting back. So it's, we're really at a weird state here where some of these corporations, they don't care if they lose money. They don't care if they lose money because they're captured and they're owned by people with a gargantuan sum of money that are controlling all of the products that we buy, all of the companies that make the products that we buy. It's a very, very interesting situation going on right now. But here's a thought. For those of you who are golf fans, you probably heard the news this week that the PGA, which used to be very hostile towards Live Golf, Saudi Arabia backed from, the fund of Mohammed bin Salman, you probably heard that they're merging now. They finally caved, and all of those PGA players that took the Live money, by the way, President Trump was right. He said this would happen. That's been fascinating to see on Twitter. People actually acknowledging President Trump was right about what was going to happen with Live Golf. And, people want to, get on their high horse and say Saudi Arabia Saudi, and I don't want to get into that right now. We could talk about what allegedly happened when Trump got in office with Saudi Arabia, just in terms of, I mean, there were reports about hotels at the Ritz-Carlton and him holding a lot of his own government, bin Salman holding a lot of his own government accountable for some of the things they've done in the past. A lot of stuff, a lot of corruption. But I'll tell you what you won't see on the PGA Tour after this. You're not going to see any rainbows. You say what you want to, but Saudi Arabia and their Live Golf now partnering with the PGA. I'm just telling you right now, you're not going to see any of this. It really directly contradicts this article saying, in order for companies to make money, you have to embrace the rainbow. No, that's not at all what's going to happen, and I can promise you, with Live Golf and PGA, you're not going to see this. You're going to see more of what the Major League Baseball did. Major League Baseball has the rainbow logo. They've had it for a couple of days. There's backlash. They take it down. Look at the grief the LA Dodgers have gotten for bringing in a group that is specifically dedicated to debauchery and mocking Christ, dressed up as demonic nuns. Okay? It's not going over well. It's not going over well at all. So, back to this question. Why are they coming for our kids? Because, demographically speaking, conservatives are having all the babies. And that's the truth. I mean, there's no other way to say it. They have a demographic problem. And that demographic problem necessitates, I mean, things are going to get worse before they get better, in my opinion. All we have to do is hold the line. All we have to do is, continue to do what we know to be right, continue to love our families, love our children, see that they are raised in the fear and admonition of the Lord, see that they build their own families. But this is why their strategy, and I don't even know if some of it's strategy, some of it's sexual perversion, sexual perversion to see even children as sexual objects. That's why they're trying to force an identity on little kids. Because it's like we see, generally speaking, everything is sex now, and everything about you should be identified by what you do in your bedroom or where, and that's just not true. But that's what we have been perverted to think, and so people look at kids and they're not sexual at all, and so, but that doesn't compute because everything about myself has to do with my sexuality. So there's a psychological component there. But the demographic problem they have is they're not having any babies. So what does that mean? That means they have to indoctrinate kids at school. It means they have to come up with some new religion to indoctrinate kids because they need the babies. In order for their movement to survive, they need the babies from straight, normal couples. They need those children to grow up and become a member of the LGBTQ. That's what they need. They need those people to become like them in order for their movement to survive. And that's what we're seeing right now. And so if you want to know why they're coming after our kids, it's because of that demographic problem. That's all the time we have for this edition of Conservative Arkansas Media. Thank you so much for being with us. My name is Paul Harrell, and we'll see you next time.